In a world filled with fish, dog, bird, and other anthropomorphic people, dragons, of course, lorded over everyone as the most powerful. When the dragons reached their peak, a goddess named Tyr appeared that had the power to grant anyone what they desired. But the wishes took their toll on her. She went a little crazy, and with the power of gaslighting, encouraged a war between the dragon clans. But 7 mysterious warriors, led of course by a dragon, put her in her place. The events of the goddess Tyr started a chain of events that would have the people of this world dealing with magical hullabaloo for the foreseeable future. Hello everybody, this is your host, Lord Sett, God of Chaos, back with a review of Breath of Fire 1 and 2. My human beast lord played them both last month and had a blast. First time playing them and felt lovely old me should give a review on what we both experienced going back to the classics. Now, the reason we're doing a review of both Breath of Fire 1 and 2 is simply because the first one was, well, kinda short. We ended up loving it so much, our first day we put in about 10 hours, resulting in about 4 days to complete in 5 to 8 hour intervals or so. The second took considerably more time, about 2 weeks. They were both blind playthroughs for the best first experience, of course. Breath of Fire 1 was made in 1993, so going in on an RPG in this time period arouses certain worries. A, would it be too repetitive even for this god? B, are the mechanics too outdated? And C, the lack of handholding. Game is old, so being repetitive wouldn't be too surprising. Sometimes this effect is very noticeable, and far more than others. Learned this the hard way going back to Mario RPG last year. Still loved the game, but about 30 hours in and the gameplay mixed with the echoing repetitive battle theme really takes its toll. I still hear it in my nightmares. Then what I mean for handholding is that the vagueness of the story can drive you crazy. I'm sorry, but I don't always feel like remembering what 2 words some guy said 20 hours ago to know where I should go now. These can be common minor annoyances that I found going back to older games. Oh, but Lord Sett, you like Final Fantasy 1? Of course I do. I also played it before, so I know what I'm doing. This only refers to games I have yet to play and does not at all hinder my enjoyment. But at the same time, there's something magical to being able to find a location where you're supposed to go all by yourself. Sometimes you'll find things that you weren't expecting. So like I said, this is a very minor annoyance that rarely makes me think any less of a game, but it's something that is also very prominent in older games. With that being said, Breath of Fire 1 actually blew away some of my expectations. Tyr got put away before the events of 1 begins. She comes back and the Black Dragons start talking about world domination and burn down your town of dragon people that for some reason gave up the power to turn into dragons. Why? I don't know. Was never answered to me in the first 2 games, but doesn't sound very smart now, does it? So you, the big blue-haired 90s anime MC, goes out to complete the legend of collecting warriors to fight back against the Black Dragons and defeat Tyr. Now, you would think, who the hell would work with a dragon to fight against other dragons? Well, you got Bird Girl, Star Wolf, Fishy Fish, Bull Nuts, Sir Diggs, Karn, I like his name, and Sorcery Noodle. There are a ton of animal people in this game, seriously. Wait till number 2, it's furry heaven. Love every single one of the characters, supporting characters and villains, as well as their use throughout the story. This game upholds a tone of mysticism and whimsy I haven't felt in this fashion in quite some time. This game could easily be turned into an 80s anime hero tale with the art style at the time, and it would work tremendously. Combat in this game really surprised me. They truly did their best to be innovative and made me question a couple of times if this actually came out on the SNES. So on the surface, the battle gameplay is pretty simple. Allies and enemies share turn order. The fastest go first, and then everyone else follows after them in that order. Every character fits in a specialization. For instance, Ox is big, very powerful, and can take multiple hits easy. He's the tank. But he is also the slowest damn thing in the goddamn game. 99% of the time, he will always go last. Whereas Karn is usually always going first. has decent power and crits more often than anyone, but he cannot take hits. Then they add things like fusion that combines several of the weaker characters into stronger characters, makes the less useful party members far more useful. Loved it. Being able to switch between characters in and out of battle was impressive at the time. Counters, equipment that can be used as battle items, but then it doesn't stop with just combat itself. Out of combat, you actually get a few mini games to play. Bo can hunt animals on the field, giving you alternative ways to get items in battle. Slightly better Aquaman can set up shop, allowing you to buy and trade items from NPCs. They seriously wanted you to have fun in this game, and I could feel every bit of it. You add all of that with these crazy combat animations, especially for a game that, once again, came out on the SNES. They went in. I mean, to be expected from the company doing Street Fighter. They understand frames, so I'm not at all surprised to see them using the knowledge they acquired from making fighting games applied to their RPG. I love that. If it's not them doing their best to what could be called a cutscene at this time, to impressive enemy idle animations and attack animations, you don't see this level of fluidity in gameplay scenes made today. Also in bit form, right? Like, this is impressive. Pig swinging around the mace, oh hell yeah, love this. So as good as the game is, it did have some weak points for me. As whimsical as the story is, I'm the type of person who wants more logic and some explanation to some of the events happening. Example, you go to the sage who helps you stop an army by giving you an egg. You're supposed to put the egg in an underwater volcano. Then it hatches into something called a hurricane bug that destroys half of the army before going away. Why? No one knows why. There are about 6 crazy examples of some of the most outlandish things I've seen just happening, clearly just to push the story forward. Not say it wasn't good, these things made me laugh. It is quite the thing to some mystical mayhem that you have no idea what's going on. It can be relaxing, it's pleasing, but I also don't want it to make up most of my story, and that's what I got from Breath of Fire 1. I personally wanted more structure. This game had some decent character development, like Nina turning into a pigeon and finally making herself useful, but found myself wanting more from the characters and the story because I loved this world and I loved the characters so much. Next is the difficulty of the game. Bosses mainly are the ones that gave me a real challenge. But once I got an understanding of the game, I stopped having any real issues and could always predict just how much effort I would need to move forward. But with that said, bosses really are something in this game, and a lot of them had some cool, imaginative gimmicks that are always left me surprised. So, very fun experience overall. Then finally, the vagueness of the directions. I'm a god. I've been around for eons. I retain information fairly well. But this game had me stumped more than a few times, forcing me to look around for almost hours to figure something out. What can I say? I've been spoiled by modern games. Luckily, I enjoyed the game so much that looking around wasn't a big problem. In fact, I discovered a lot of stuff. Like half of the transformations I discovered by getting lost and exploring the world. There's something precious to being lost in an interesting world that draws you in. Snake Lady? Not you. Random people go? Wow, he talks to Karn? Okay. In fact, right before beating the game, we decided to look up what I may have been missing before the final boss. Other than a few ultimate weapons and some one-time only things, we can complete the game about 90% without any guides at all. Mostly because Aquaman's minigame I neglected. You have to, once again, you have to sell and buy things from NPCs, and that's mainly the only way to get, I think like 4 of their ultimate weapons and a couple of other special items, and that was mainly it. Even talking about the weakest areas of the game though, these aren't really complaints. Most areas that I hope they improve upon in the next game. These are just minor annoyances, or the things that bothered me the most about the games, but it's nothing at all that I would, if I was going to give this game a score, would take points or scores away from. Like, these are just things that I really hope they improve upon in Breath of Fire 2. And with that being said, let's move to the next game. Big ol' Breath of Fire 2. Alright, here we go. So like I said, the reason I'm doing a review of both 1 and 2 is because number 1 didn't take too much time to beat. So I figured talking about both of them would allow me to go over the evolution of going from Breath of Fire 1 to Breath of Fire 2 along the way. You start off as some wee child chasing his dumbass sister who ran into the forest alone, where monsters are, of course, to prey to a dragon. After a stern talking to from our father, we close our eyes for just a moment and bam, just like that we get isekai to another world. Dad's not there, thank God our sister isn't there. We go back to find out that Pops never existed to run the church, but they take us in anyway. There we meet Big Brother Bao, the bulldog who whisks us off on an adventure of stealing candles and getting bat touched by a demon in a cave because his dumbass wanted to chase some gigantic tail throughout the darkness because, you know, that's something that you do. Anyway, we learn about 40 hours later that when the goddess Tyr first stepped into the world, after all the gaslighting and dragon dick, she left behind something evil, a foul seed that's buried itself within the planet. The dragons foretold someone would appear, a child of light, who would be born to stop the festering evil. So the storytelling in this game is already leagues better than the first. Yet they kept all the whimsy and mystical foolery the first game did and cranked it up a notch. If you thought the first felt like a D&D campaign, then you'll love this game. A feline person named Kat that we met in a martial arts tournament who follows us because we kicked her ass, and I guess when we saved her from the poison that she's in denial of. Big bro Bao, the dog man who's as loyal as his inability to get a girlfriend. A version of Nina that matters. Cursed for her black wings and wants to change the stigma on them. Big Daddy Rand who wants nothing more than to make sure the kids are safe with them knuckles. Sten, basically a ninja monkey. So many zany characters you meet. They all have a start and a conclusion to their individual stories also, completing one of my hopes with better character development and deeper storylines. They didn't do anything crazy, but went much further than the introduction. For instance, Jean the Frog. Yes, don't get me started on him being French and a frog, and to make things worse, he is the only person in his entire family with a French accent. This game was made in 1994. But when you first meet him, he was transformed into a giant frog. On helping him, you right away get the idea that he's not only a womanizer like Sten and Bao to a lesser extent. Once again, this game was made in 1994. I can't stress this enough again. But you also quickly get the idea that he's an airhead. But on meeting his family, you not only realize that he's the most morally sound person in the family, his sister being crazy and almost killed us, and his father is just batshit. He started off as some lazy frog, then you learn he's just completely content with who he is and won't let anybody change that.
Doesn't it bother you to be treated like an imposter? Why would it bother me? I'm just gonna change from Prince Jean to Plain Jean. I mean, alright, that's pretty chill.
On top of that, he is a good person. Everyone in this game, every single character except for maybe Spar, I felt Spar was lacking a little bit. They all had amazing stories. Aside from the individuals, the story itself still had the characters going through a wild series of unfortunate events. The monster chefs, the plant monsters hunting those looking for fruit, different chosen paths that can get you different items. The overly sexual overtones when unlocking your first dragon.
Join those powers. She's just gonna Star Trek inside me, huh? Oh, I feel it. Granny, she's just a big ass red dragon now. Granny, what is this? I feel it. This power is too strong. That's right. Can't take it, huh? Yeah, that's fucking right. He's too much for... I love. Damn, I burned up the whole house. That's right. I'm proud. I knew that would happen. Of course it would happen, right? She didn't know what she was in for. Oh, damn. Okay, I need to calm down. This game is great. I love this game.
So much magical weirdness happening that made me want more. Then they continued to deliver. The use of Tyr, for instance. They set up a series of games just from her existing. Kind of like Chrono Trigger, how Lavos' influence through time simply can't be stopped, resulting in a world like Chrono Cross. They even went back and gave the dragons more lore, something I desperately wanted from the first, but I love that they made it very clear that anyone with dragon blood has the potential to become a dragon if they undergo a sufficient amount of stress. That leaves a lot of things open. It means that you could meet someone else that can turn into a dragon. It also means you do not have to be some hero of legend to do such a thing. They give examples of these also with Rey and the main character. They do a better job with the twist rather than throwing them at you at the last second like the first one did. Some stuff like Rey's position in the game was also pretty obvious, but others, like what actually happened to the Dragon Clan, was a great experience and a wonderful thing to find out. I go crazy for lore, and I feel that they are expanding in a good way, slowly and naturally. Not to say there aren't still crazy, unexplainable things that happens in Breath of Fire 2, but not everything needs to be explained. Like Dragon Mom and just straight up killing her daughter for no reason. But the wild, unexplained randomness has been drastically reduced in this game is my point. Combat, just like every other aspect of this game, is a complete upgrade. Battles are done turn by turn, both sides going at the exact same time, prioritizing speed. This has always been something I liked because the smallest changes in speed can affect the lineup and allow you to make efficient strategies. They also added the ability to change the combat positioning of your party into formations. Each formation seems to have a purpose, with the most obvious being from enemy interactions. Characters in the front tend to take the most aggro, characters in the back take the least aggro. But one of my favorite additions is diving further into the character uniqueness. In Breath of Fire 2, every single character is far more useful than the first. All of them get special abilities that more or less can be effective, and some are confusing, such as Cat getting a skill that aggroes the enemy team. Not good for a party member with some of the lowest defense and health in the game, yet she is good at evading and can become the focus of some annoying status effects she'll be immune to with certain accessories. Or Rand, whose skill can bring allies back to life by chance, and it even hits for 1 damage so you can wake up sleeping members. This game even keeps the fusions with the use of sages. Each sage increases a stat, but when giving the right combination results in a transformation, further increasing those stats and changing their form and granting new special skills in the process. Everyone also gets magic and has a certain focus in battle resulting from that magic. For instance, Bao being one of the greatest white mages ever because he learns all the best healing and support spells other than the shield skill for some stupid reason. But he also has a skill called Shoot that can potentially one-shot enemies. They all have fairly useful skills and all have access to magic, making the party setup pretty interesting and always helpful in one way or another. Now, with everything they added to the game, they did take away a few things. The most notable are the dragon forms. In this game, turning into a dragon is more like summoning in Final Fantasy. You call it, it does its thing, then it vanishes. They are stronger based on how much mana you have in stock at the time, because the less mana you have with your MC, the less damage the dragon does. So what I like to do is typically use my white magic if I need to in the battle, and then I'll expend the rest for a big old attack. They explained why he doesn't get to keep his dragon forms, and I was very comfortable with the reasoning. But it was a removal I was not expecting. Wish I knew what made them go in that different direction for a change, but I didn't really mind it. I'm just curious why. The other thing I'm surprised they removed was the switching of characters in battle. Now, it's true that characters can do much more than they could in Breath of Fire 1, but I would have loved to continue seeing that. At the start of the game, they made sense of it by having the characters help out an old man who runs a town that you'll be running later in the game. But after that, they all just stay in their rooms, just chilling, just having a fucking lunch while I'm out here fighting demons all fucking day. Being able to change characters at the Dragon Lord statue makes it easier, but yeah, I personally wish that they kept that, and hopefully I'll see it in the next game. It's not a big deal. It doesn't take away from the gameplay at all. Also, while I'm saying that, I wish they also kind of kept holding the dragon forms. It was cool. It was interesting. It made you feel special. Not that the character didn't feel special at all, but I like the idea of fighting as a dragon because I felt we were in trouble. Like, yeah, here we go. Thunder Dragon, let's go. Still fun, doesn't take away from the gameplay, just more of a personal desire. I am very grateful about the game's difficulty. Normal battles tended to be more difficult. Bosses had some nice strategies. Nothing too wild, but a step up from Breath of Fire 1. But goddamn, the encounter rate, my fucking god. Just like the first one, if I did not enjoy this game so much, the encounter rate would have driven me insane. I really hope in number 3, this has been reduced by at least 50%. Seriously, that in-game dungeon was far more annoying than anything else in the game. Hunting in the game was far worse than the first game. I love that the game kept it, but it took far too much effort to kill something unless it's a boar. I tried at least 100 times, and the only thing I managed to kill was a single bird for the egg finally after forever, and the boars. Yeah, I hope they keep the hunting in the other games, but add stuff like upgrades to the shooting, even if it's just increasing the damage with each shot. Everybody else out of combat skills were pretty useful, but Bao's hunting was the only thing that bothered me. Finally, I could do without the vagueness of directions again. It was just as bad as it was in the first game. I don't mind looking around for things. Like I said, the game is so fun, so interesting that I enjoyed exploring. Getting lost itself can be a treasure. We discovered a lot of things in the second one as we did in the first one. I love doing that, but it could be a bit more clear. Something I'll once again hope that it gets better in the next game. If not, I'll deal with it, not a big deal. But yes, please be more clear with where you want me to go sometimes. There we have it, y'all. Thank you for sticking with me through that. Big wacky world filled with fantastic characters and dragons. We will eventually get to Breath of Fire 3 and 4, but until then, we hope you'll be excited for our next review going forward. Breath of Fire ended up being a breath of fresh air.